that report?
The first report had been purely to do with the passenger screening staff. This time, because the criticism from our airport manager was that it only dealt with one section of staff, we decided to take a sample of a 10% sample of every person who held the air security identification card, which enables access to the sterile areas. So I basically got a list from Qantas, or ASIC as it was called at the time, of everybody who held one of those cards, and simply took 10% of them and thoroughly checked their backgrounds and so on.
So when you say you checked their backgrounds, did you have access to whether they had any criminal convictions?
I did. I had access to the databases of several law enforcement agencies.
Okay, so you were given quite high-level access.
I believe I had one of the highest accesses in customs at the time.
Right. And did you, and in broad terms, what did you find with that 10% sample?
Given that it was entirely random, the findings were quite shocking. You have the redacted report here. Most of the figures are available. 20% of the persons holding those identification cards enabling access to the sterile areas were found to have criminal convictions. About half of those were serious convictions, including drug trafficking, assault, and other misdemeanors.
Hang on, so these are people working in sterile areas for customs, or
no, not for customs.
But in terms of in terms of being involved in passenger security and baggage handling? The
baggage handling, literally everybody who works behind the baggage handling, the cleaners, more screening staff, the airport provenders, the aircraft provenders, those who actually go on board the aircrafts once the passengers disembark. Quite literally everybody who is behind that line.
Okay, so people who had access to the baggage, who had sensitive access to behind the sterile area. To
the baggage, to the aircraft, and to other goods.
Okay. Yes. So what you found shocking was what the level of people with this ASIC card, this identification card, security card. This security card, 20% had conviction, including, and half of those. Yes. In other words, 10% of the people that you sampled had convictions for things including drug trafficking.
That's correct. I believe the actual figure was 26, it is available in the report. 26% had convictions, and I think the figure was 12 or 13% serious convictions.
So about 1 in 8 had serious convictions.
Easily.
So you were surprised by that?
I was astonished.
Okay.
As well as, now those are just people we could identify. What was most worrying was the degree of identity fraud in obtaining those cards. There were a number of individuals who had cards in multiple names. There were at least 8 people who were unidentifiable on any known database. They did not exist. They weren't on the electoral roll. Right. They didn't have driver's licenses. They didn't own cars. 8 people, yes. Of my sample of about 500 it would have been.
So about 1.5%?
Yes.
Almost 2%,
yep.
They didn't exist?
They did not exist under the names for which they had those identity cards, no.
The fact there were any people on that list.
Correct.
Is quite disturbing.
That was quite shocking. In fact, subsequently, when this second report, more comprehensive report, was rejected, because I'd been liaising with Department of Immigration staff and using their databases, they were so shocked that there was not going to be any action on this bigger report that they went out and arrested under their own powers 2 people who were on the screening staff who were in fact illegals.
Okay.
Whom I detected.
Right. So as a result, so there were arrests carried out, but you're saying that was a result of the Department of Immigration.
Immigration under their own powers, yes.
Under their own powers. So you prepared this second report, which included quite shocking information. What happened to that report?
That was also rejected.
When you say rejected, what do you mean by that?
By our senior customs airport manager. He was the most senior person in the Sydney airport.
Clear if I can, sir. The first one